I feel like ribald is the word troubadours would have used to describe their slightly more naughty and adult content stories and songs.
Ribald it's a type of grain, and then you scratch all the hairs off of it, and then it becomes ribald.
So for me, ribald is something that is like risque, a little bit sexy, also a little bit like dirty. Like we're talking like kind of like Sex in an Alley, but the alley is like next to a botanical gardens. And so that would be like kind of ribald.
I'm really looking forward to the show because so many times when I do storytelling events, they tell me to be PG-13. So the invitation to be rated R is just wonderful.
Rated R for, I don't want to say that word. Rated R for Ribald.
Welcome everyone to Rated R for however you want to pronounce it. Ribald, which rhymes with highball, which is what my grandma called any drink that had alcohol in it, or Ribble, which rhymes with nibble, and I'll let you use your imagination on that one. Tonight's show is going to be great. You are going to hear some crazy, risque, slightly off-color stories, and you're going to experience some storytellers that you haven't seen quite in this genre before. And everyone is wearing something slightly risque. I have these new lovely gloves, and so I want to get the most of them. So I'm just going to go like this for most of the evening so that everybody sees them all the time. By the way, this show is definitely not for kids. We want to make that clear. No kids, unless you're not very happy with your public schools, health education, sex education, in which case you could have your kids stick around. I can't promise that what we're going to say is going to be at all accurate, but that's on you. So if you don't want that, get the kids out of the room. Ribald, ribaldry, rabelaisian. Some of you may have known that word. I didn't know the word. I had to look it up. I didn't get the same score on my SAT as Jessica, who came up with that term for us. Ribald changes, I think, as you age. Let's just say it. And I've been with my lovely partner, now wife, Diane, for almost 31 years. And, the whole ribald thing just changes a little bit. Okay. We used to shop for all of our adult toys at Good Vibrations. And I think you can imagine, what we bought there. But now we do a lot of our shopping at Relax the Back. Because as you get to a certain age, I'm just saying that safe sex, my idea of sexiness is a firm mattress. Okay. So 31 years, it can do it. It's still there. We still have it, but we just want to have it on a really good support system. Because 31 years for us, it's like 142 heterosexual years. I don't know if you realize that. So things change when you've been with someone for 142 years. So anyway, wherever you're at in your life cycle, I hope there's a little ribald in your life. And we want to get this crazy ribald going. But first, I want to say hello to our backstage audience, the ones that were brave enough to show up in the backstage. Thank you. Woo! We had a few that wore some sexy t-shirts and a few robes. Thank you for playing along. We also want to say hello to our YouTube audience. Put some love in the chat. Let us know how you're doing. Yay, YouTube audience. All right, we'll get going here. Bring the ribald to the table. First up, we have a storyteller who's also co-producing this show. Jessica Robinson is a producer of Better Said Than Done, a very wonderful show. And she's also co-producing this with 6 Feet Apart Productions. And we're really clear. I have to say that Jessica is, I almost said Claire, Jessica is one of the great things to come out of this pandemic for me, and Claire too, but Jessica is what the point I wanted to get across there. So without further ado, let's bring Jessica Robinson into the screen so we can have a little chat with her. And there's her name. Yay. We're so happy to have her here. It's going to be awesome. Jessica, there you are. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Bonjour.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Are you feeling a little rabelaisian? I'm going to use that word a lot because I think this is my only shot at using it is tonight for the next hour and a half. So
I'm always ready for it, Regina.
Nice. So Jessica, you're married and you have 2 young children. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, how do you keep that rabelaisian vibe going? I mean, do you have to get creative? Do you have to play like really long games of hide and seek and tell the kids to count to 10,000? Or how are you doing with that?
Well, I was doing just well back before the pandemic because we used to just kick the kids out. But yeah, so it's what is it, 18 months now? So I really need to be here tonight.
Well, sometimes that can add a little bit to the heightened excitement when you know that your kids could bust through the door at any moment. Why is mommy wrestling with daddy? Okay, next question. Based on the board game Clue, who, what, and where for your Ribald fantasy in the game of Clue?
Well, I'd say where would be in the bedroom, obviously, because I'm old fashioned like that. What? Well, yeah, I'd say a silk scarf. And who? I'm gonna let you guys leave that up to your imagination.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe it's a group. Maybe that's why you can't pick just one. There'd be a whole bunch of you, maybe in the library on the billiards table. I don't know. Okay, well, we're going to keep this going. We're going to hear what Jessica has to say. It's been lovely chatting, but the reason we're here is to hear about a girl's love of sausage. So let's hear it, Jessica Robinson.
It was long and hard, like a pepperoni. That's what I was thinking as I lie in bed for the very first time, in my bed with Bart. I was thinking it was long and hard, the path that had gotten him to my bed. I had been chasing him for 2 long years. I tried to pick him up online. I wanted to auction him off for a bachelor auction to raise money for a charity. And he said no, but we became friends and we started this flirtation, little messages back and forth. And it took months before I finally earned a coveted invite to a party. It was a party he was throwing, and it was the most awesome sounding party ever. It was his annual Wiener roast and tramp party. I obviously wanted to go, but I RSVP'd maybe because, I didn't want to seem easy. And it's a good thing I did too, because 2 days before the party, his status changed to in a relationship. And I was like, screw that. I'm not going to go watch some other girl handle Bart's wiener. Time went by and eventually I ended up in a relationship. It was it was an unsatisfactory relationship, but I held on, hoping it would get better, and then just holding on until something better came along. And about a year later, Bart's status changed again to single. And I was like, oh, I got to get on that. Like, I got to get on that, soon, because I didn't want it to go back to in a relationship. So I tried to break up with my boyfriend. And I say tried because it took like 12 times and over a month for him to finally get it. But in the meantime, I figured I should act fast. So even though I was still technically, in a relationship, I asked Bart out for a platonic night out with friends. And he joined me and some friends for a storytelling show. And before the show, we went to Ben's Chili Bowl, where, I got to say, if you're if you're trying to impress a guy that you want to get with, I highly recommend ordering a half smoke, which, if you don't know, it's a bun with a sausage on it covered in chili. And then what you do is you take that, and while he's watching you, you slowly, languorously, really, insert it into your mouth and bite off the end, chew it up, and yeah, don't forget to swallow. The half smoke was spicy, but my friends and I all agreed that the hottest piece of meat that night was Bart. Now, eventually, finally, I could say officially that I was single, and it was a week before I was set to run the Marine Corps Marathon, the DC Marathon. And it was coincidentally a week before Bart's next annual wiener roast and tramp party. He was having it on the same night as the Marine Corps Marathon. And I once again RSVP'd, maybe not because I was any longer trying to play hard to get, but because I was running a marathon that day and I thought I might not make it to his house. But I did want to get on that, I wanted to get with him as soon as possible so his status didn't change again. And so even though we were both really busy, I managed to find one night that we could get together and be alone together finally. Unfortunately, that night was the Friday before the marathon. So I was like, okay, I want you to come over. I'm excited. This is going to be awesome, but I have to go to bed early. So there's no time for hanky panky, okay? And Bart was like, yeah, of course, definitely. So he came to my house and we sat on my couch and we watched a movie together. And can you believe it? He was a complete gentleman. He didn't grope me a single time. And then when the movie was over, he was like, well, I guess I better let you get to sleep. And he got up to go. And I was like, what are you doing? So I walked him to the front door and I looked out and I didn't see his motorcycle parked in the court. I told you guys he was hot. Of course, he rode a motorcycle. And I said, where's your bike? And he said, oh, I didn't want to drive into your neighborhood, so I parked it out at the street. And I was like, well, I can't. It's like after 10. I can't let you walk all the way out to the street all by yourself. I'll walk you to your bike. And so I did. But he didn't touch me the whole time. It was really kind of awkward. And then we got to his bike and I really wanted something to happen. So I leaned in for a hug and he just kind of patted me on the back. And then I was like, okay, good night. And I turned to walk away and he started following me. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, well, it's after 10 o'clock. I can't let you walk back to your front door by yourself. So I took his arm and I squeezed his big muscles, which were made bigger by the, motorcycle jacket padding. And I said, my hero. I didn't let go of his arm though. We walked back to my front step, arm in arm. And when we got up on my front door stoop, I gave him a real hug, the kind where you press your body against theirs, every inch of your body is connected. And then when I pulled away, our cheeks sort of brushed along each other and our lips kind of brushed, and then we were making out. It was so good. It was so good that like an hour went by of us just making out on my front stoop. And then I remembered I have nosy neighbors who were probably meeting to discuss the situation and putting a new rule in the HOA regulations that you're not allowed to make out on your front stoop. So I said, listen, I do have to go to bed. I do, but I'd like to maybe have like 5 more minutes of this inside. You want to come in for 5 minutes? And Bart said, yeah. So he came in and we moved the conversation to the couch. And it was a little bit more than 5 minutes. It was about 2 hours later. So when I looked at the clock, it was 1 a.m. and I had to go to sleep because I had a marathon to run. So I said, okay, I got to go to bed, but it's a Friday night at like 1 a.m. I don't want to send you home on your motorcycle. I didn't want him to get killed because I hadn't slept with him yet. So I said, just come up to bed. But again, we cannot do anything. Like, I'm not taking my clothes off. You're not taking your clothes off. We're just going to sleep. And Bart said, okay. And y'all, when we got in my bed, he didn't take his clothes off. And he didn't take my clothes off. So we just lie there side by side, not naked and not touching each other. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? He fell asleep, but I couldn't because, I was frustrated. And also, I was thinking, well, I don't know how else to say this. I really kind of wanted to know what he was packing. I mean, I don't want to sound shallow or anything, but I had just gotten out of a relationship. I mentioned that it was an unsatisfactory relationship. And I know size doesn't matter, but well, when they're not bringing anything else to the table, size kind of matters. And it's not like I needed a kabasi. I mean, I'd be perfectly happy with a ballpark, but well, I don't know how to say this, but I was fully and completely unsatisfied with just one single Vienna sausage. And so while I was lying there next to Bart, I was thinking, what am I going to get stuck with or or blessed with, assuming that this goes anywhere. But I couldn't really determine the situation while he was sleeping. And I didn't get much sleep that night. And then the alarm went off at like 5 a.m. and I kicked him out, and I went and ran a marathon, and he went and got ready for the party. And, when the marathon was over, it was the worst I'd ever run. I limped from the starting line to the finish line, but I made it. I just wanted to go home and take an ice bath and stay in bed all day and, eat Ben and Jerry's. But I hadn't sealed the deal, and I I didn't want to lose Bart. I had no idea if he had other women lined up coming to the party. So I got myself together and I dragged myself over to Bart's Wiener Roast. And then I got there, and it was like a bunch of people standing outside around a fire, a bunch of people I didn't know. I didn't see Bart anywhere. And suddenly I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what kind of guy this is. Like he could have 6 other single women like coming to the party, and he might just pick which one he wanted that night. Or maybe he was one of those guys who was just going to pretend nothing happened and he was going to completely ghost me. So I was just standing there around a fire with a group of strangers, just trying to power my way through, waiting for Bart to show up. And then he finally did. And when he came out and saw me right in front of all of his friends, he came right up to me and he kissed me on the lips. And he took my hand and he didn't let it go for the rest of the night. And even though I had run a marathon that morning, I was the last guest standing. When they had all finally left, Bart led me up to his bedroom, and then he did take off his clothes, and it was a sight for sore eyes. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the gory details because I know you guys don't care, but I am going to tell you that was 14 years ago. And after all this time, I am still fully satisfied with just a single bratwurst.
Yes!
Yay!
Woo!
Pretty good.
Hey, good story.
Yay!
Bravo. Bravo.
Lovely. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Oh, Jessica, run a marathon and sausage, all that in one story. That's amazing. Well, I guess I can see why maybe you've been able to keep the spark alive in spite of having the kids home for 18 months. That was a great story. Thank you. We're going to keep the party going. And I do want to, again, say hello to the YouTubers and give us some love in the chat and bring into the stage our next storyteller. Now, this guy, he hails from Brooklyn, and he's very busy, and we're very, very happy that he made time to be on our show. And he's single-handedly responsible for the current bathrobe craze that is sweeping the nation. This is the man responsible for that. So you can thank him. And we want to bring him up to tell his story. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Let's welcome Calvin S. Cato for a little chat. Hey, Calvin, how in the heck? Woo, how you doing, Calvin?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing.
Okay, there we go. If I look this way, it looks like we're talking. Wait,
I know.
there we go.
I know. I can't. I know that's always weird. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna do this a lot. What are the kind of Madonna Vogue thing, right? I don't know. Woo. Anyway, Calvin, I love your robe.
Oh, this old thing, please.
Can you give us a twirl? Just a little peek at the rest of it.
Okay, we'll do this and we'll try to not wardrobe.
Oh, yeah, there we go, guys. Yep.
Do a little of that.
Very nice. Okay, very silky. I can just imagine what that feels like. So how did this whole robe thing get started anyway? Did you just run out of money for clothes and grab some robes, or was there more thought put into it?
So basically, what happened was because of the pandemic, we had all switched to doing Zoom shows. And I actually used to dress up in a full suit to do Zoom shows because I was like a crazy person. And I was like, I'm going to be professional. And then there was one point where I was running so late to the show and it was so hot that I was like, screw it. And so I just found a floral robe that I had for something else. I put that on. And people are like, oh, wow, that's a look. And I was like, this is laziness, but the rest is history. And now I've made it my signature piece, if you
You know
will.
what? Sometimes you get inspiration from different places, and sometimes it's just from being lazy. So good for you. It's turned into a whole thing. It's got a whole thing going here. Now, your definition of ribald, it was by far my favorite. And it was describing ribald as sex in an alley, but it's an alley next to a botanical garden. So kind of dirt trashy, but yet very nice. So I just have to ask, have any of your ribald experiences involved an alley or a botanical garden?
Oh boy, not a botanical garden because I'm not that classy, but I have been in an alley, which is a different story. But suffices to say, it was not satisfying because it was an interrupted hookup because a homeless man decided to watch. So, ribald.
Ribald. All right. Well, that's this dark, seedy side of ribald. Well, I can't wait to hear what your story is about tonight. And you're going to rock the robe. We're going to give you the chance to rock that robe and tell us all about, well, I don't want to give it away. So thank you for your, and let's hear Calvin's ribald revelry. Calvin S. Cato, straight erotica. Woo!
Whew. Oh boy. Okay, you guys, you're gonna have to get ready because this is a bit off color for me and it's a bit different from what I normally do. So, in order to explain this, I'm gonna have to take you back. This was 7 years ago. I used to work as a book editor and I was working on pretty much all kinds of books, and I was abruptly let go from my job. And so I had to pound the pavement and look for new book editing jobs. And one of the jobs that popped up was a job where I would have to be an editor of urban romance novels. And in case you guys don't know what urban romance novels are, those are like novels for African American women. Basically, they're the novels that, like, if you're on a street corner, Africans sell them next to the incense, and that's basically what these novels are. And so, what my job was, what my job was supposed to be was I was going to help edit these novels, and the editor asked, "Hey, do you write erotica, or have you edited erotica before?" And because I really wanted the job, I said, yes, I'm totally familiar with erotica. I'm super familiar with how straight sex works. It's, tab A and slot B, and there's a clitoris somewhere in there. I totally knew the ropes. And so she goes, well, can you give us an example of your erotica? And this is where I fucked up because I said, oh, you know what? I have a piece of erotica. I have the story. So what the story is was that when I was 14 years old, I knew I was in a close-knit friend group, and there were two friends, a man and a woman, and I always thought they had the biggest crush on each other. And so as a joke, I decided to write a piece of straight erotica about them. And I, for some reason, thought that it was smart to show this to the editor. So for tonight, I'm going to read you the erotica that I wrote when I was 14 years old that I thought this is how straight sex works. And in case you guys don't believe me, this is the actual construction notebook paper that I used. You can smell the acne through the screen. Okay, it was a lot going on. It was a very different time. It was 1998. The dot-com bubble hadn't burst yet, so I thought I knew how straight sex worked. I had given this story to a friend, and she wrote in the notes, painfully virginal. So get ready for what 14-year-old me thought straight sex was. Also, another friend wrote, there's a lot of jungle fever. This will come into play later. So the story is called First Helpings, because there's second helpings, but this was the first. So, you rented a lovely room, Mark, said a white woman. I know, very subtle. With rosy cheeks, blue eyes, and short blonde hair. Anything for you, Catherine. First Helpings is an expensive and clean hotel, said a tanned black man. Which that's redundant. With brown eyes, black hair, and braces. Yes, braces was in the erotica, y'all. It gets better. This is going to be our special night, Catherine said, putting emphasis on the word special. French kissing, they fall onto the bed. As she took a breath, Catherine slowly but seductively takes off her shirt, revealing two supple breasts. Two, because I'm not gay, that's how I know. Yum, Mark says. and gets to work sucking her breast sensuously, like ripe apples. Yes, ripe apples. You know those Granny Smith titties? That's how that works. She proceeds to take off her shirt, continuity issues. She goes down to his pants and unbuckles a belt, revealing tight-fitting briefs where a nearly erect penis pokes out of the fabric. Mark then says, "I've shown you mine, now show me yours." Catherine quickly drops her pants, ready to get it on. She leaps onto the bed, lying on her back. "Fuck me," she ejaculates softly into the air. Yes, I actually wrote this. Mark gets on top of her and lets down his briefs, revealing a 7-incher. A good-sized dick for a good-sized man. Actual words that I wrote and showed an editor to get a job. "Want to get down and blow?" he asks. "I couldn't think of anything better," she retorts, and puts his penis in her mouth. And now an interlude. The blinds are open in their room. In the night sky is a full moon and a few stars. The celestial light of the moon shines down upon Catherine and Mark, consummating their union. "You look so beautiful sucking down there," Mark growls. A sly smile forms upon his face. He ejaculates after 5 minutes, forcing Catherine to quickly gulp down his semen. I'm so sorry, YouTube. "You came too quickly," Catherine says, annoyed. "I wanted it to last." "I'm sorry, I just couldn't hold it in," Mark apologizes. He takes her up off of her knees. They are now both laying down on the bed, locked in a passionate kiss, all the while groping each other. Their lips seem to be glued together, but a sudden thrust tears them apart. "Oh," she says, surprised. Oh, she screams again. Mark tries to push his penis inside of her more. "You're so tight in there," he says, annoyed. "Try to spread your legs more." "I am trying," she says, "but..." "Just try a little bit more." Rude. "Ow, ooh." "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying too hard. I don't want to hurt you." He starts to pull his penis out of her vagina. "No, keep going. I'll say when to stop." Another thrust occurs. It is so powerful that his scrotum slaps against her skin. Oh, she moans. And then, yes. She grabs his buttocks and he grabs her lower back, both trying to link themselves into one orgasmic being. They both gyrate voraciously, leading up to the climax. Droplets of sweat form upon each of them. Finally, Mark ejaculates, shooting hard between Catherine's legs. They both pant furiously like wild animals. "Was it good for you?" Mark asks. "Perfect," Catherine purrs. I know. Can you believe I didn't get the job? What? So anyway, that's my story. Don't ever show this to anyone who wants to hire you for a job. Have a good night.
Oh my God, that was
Should have hired you.
Always gotta be a
Oh man, Calvin, the power when you're saying the power of suggestion, it was really strong in that story. I really liked it. Oh, all right, sorry. Woo, you just had me kind of worked up there, Calvin. Okay, that was funny. I love that story. And I have to say, I did play on the opposite team for many years before I was with Diane. And the last time, though, I played for the opposite team, it resulted in a crazy sort of one-night stand of passion on a rollaway bed in a kitchen in Edinburgh, Scotland. And I woke up in the morning to find a small toddler sitting on the kitchen counter covered in butter. And then I switched teams. So I do love that story. I can relate to the whole, yeah. But next up, we're going to bring a man in who sounds very prim and very proper, but that facade is falling by the wayside tonight. He's going to cast off his British reserve, and we're going to have a little chat with Mr. Simon Brooks and see how he's sort of reinvented himself this evening. So we'll bring him up. Mr. Simon Brooks, Mr. Prim and Proper. Yeah, not tonight, not tonight. Simon, hey, look at you rocking that look.
I'm trying. I was going to be in a t-shirt, but I was told, no, that's not going to work tonight.
No. You got to step it up.
I was even going to put the waistcoat over the top of the t-shirt, but I was told to lose the t-shirt. So here I am.
No, I think you got your advice from your daughter and your wife. So we're clear on that front, right?
Well, my daughter, yeah, she brought the clothes up to me. So.
All right, well, that's good. And let's be clear that this is a departure from Simon's usual style. He's usually very prim, proper, and children friendly, but tonight, not the case. But
not so much.
Yeah, so this show is a bit of a departure for you, and I'm just curious.
Hugely.
Huge, just small. Were you a little bit hesitant about this?
I'm still very hesitant about this.
Okay, well, we appreciate your honesty, and we're very glad that you're here. All right, so based on all the stories you know, because you do a lot of traditional, a lot of folklore, and I'm just curious, what would be the who, kind of like Clue, but the who, the with what, and where of your Ribald folktale?
Well, I have to say that I've given this a great deal of thought, and it had to be Rapunzel with a hairbrush in the kitchen.
Excellent. I think there's a whole new board game that needs to be created. And I can't wait to hear if Rapunzel or kitchen or any of those things show up in your story tonight. So let's jump right to it. Simon, it's been wonderful chatting with you, but we are going to bring Mr. Simon Brooks up to our stage.
That was me taking a deep breath, by the way. So this story is not going to be a personal story because there is no way in Hades that I'll be sharing anything like I've heard so far tonight. So this is going to be from my usual box of tricks of folk and fairy tales. However, this is not a usual box of tricks kind of story for folk and fairy tales. A lot of people know that there are indeed adult fairy tales, and this is one. However, it comes from a collection of stories by a character who is very well known in the children's world, Anansi the spider. Now, Anansi the spider, he had a friend sometimes in Tiger. And Tiger was one of the most arrogant animals that there was in the whole of the forest. He thought he was the best of everything. He would walk along preening himself. He would, I have the finest stripes in the jungle. Oh yeah, he loved his stripes. He loved his paws, the paws that were twice the size of my face, huge, sharp claws. I have the most powerful paws, the sharpest claws. And my jaw, even Superman doesn't have a jaw like mine. One of the things that he was also proud of was his tail, whip-like, whoosh, flying over his head when he wanted it. But the thing he was most proud about was his beautifully pendulous testicles. Tiger loved his balls. Now, here's the thing about Tiger. He loved swimming, but what he didn't like about swimming was sometimes the little fishes would come and bother him in that area. Now, as he was making his way to the pond where he usually swam, he bumped into his good friend, Anansi the spider. Oh, Anansi, come with me. Okay, said Anansi, not wanting to refuse Tiger. And they started walking and talking. I have a favor to ask you as they got close to the pond. And what's that favor? I want you to look after something for me, Anansi. Well, of course I would. I would do anything for you, Tiger. And so Tiger stopped at the edge of the pond. With one of his powerful paws, he reached between his back legs and removed his testicles and set them on the rock. I want you to guard these for me, Anansi. Make sure nobody takes them with me. Anansi just stared at these boulders that were upon that rock. He looked down at his own little cherries, raisins almost, and then back at these plums, melons almost. I don't like it when the fishes come and bother me down there. This will be much more comfortable. And Tiger strode off to swim into the pond. Meanwhile, Anansi kept looking at these things, looking at himself, looking at these things, and an idea passed between his ears. And he watched as Tiger swam. And Anansi reached down and removed his tiny testicles and placed them on the rock next to Tiger's terrific testicles, and then took Tiger's testicles and placed them on his own body and ran. He ran and ran and ran as best as you can with something that large between your legs. And he ran and ran and ran until he could run no further. And just then, he heard the monkeys swinging through the trees, calling out to each other. And he had an idea. Now, Anansi knew that he was going to be in a great deal of trouble when Tiger came out of that pool and saw that his testicles were gone. And so he wanted to take the blame off himself. And so he called down, monkey, 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 come down here. Well, have you heard the new story that's going around the village? No. Oh, it's a great song. You should learn it because everyone is singing. Absolutely everyone's singing. Tell us, Anansi, tell us. And so Anansi looked at the monkey and said, I've got Tiger's balls and I ate them. And he taught the monkey how to sing this song. And the monkey went up into the tree and told another monkey, who told another monkey and told another monkey, until the whole troop of monkeys were singing that song. And off they took through the trees. And then Anansi ran as best as he could with those big, beautiful balls between his legs all the way back home. When Tiger came out of the pool and saw Anansi's little testes sitting there on the rock, he was furious. And he took after Anansi, following his sense of smell, not leaving the nuts behind, but putting them where the nuts should be. And he made his way through the forest until he eventually caught up with Anansi. Anansi hid behind some brush. Hello, Tiger. Anansi, come out where I can see you. Oh, and why would you need me to do that? There's something I have to ask you about. I'm quite fine here. It's very cool here. Would you just ask me a question? It's to do with my testicles. Anansi looked at Tiger and saw his own testicles, and seeing such small things on Tiger's enormous body, well, he almost burst out laughing, but he was able to control himself. I believe you have my balls. Whoa. No, Tiger, you see, that's not what happened at all. You see, no, I was guarding your balls just as you asked me to, because, we're good friends. And then these monkeys, they came down from the trees and they took off. I swear they took off, and they took off with it. And I felt so bad about you. I couldn't leave you without anything. So I gave you mine, which is why I left those there on the rock. Anansi, always followed by good luck, suddenly heard the troop of monkeys coming through the trees. And Tiger heard what they were singing. We've got Tiger's balls and we ate them. Well, Tiger was not happy. He took off after those monkeys, trying to climb up into the trees after them. And then Anansi made his way home to Asa, his wife. Now Anansi knew that he was going to be in big trouble if Tiger ever caught up with those monkeys, and he would have to give Tiger his testicles back. But before that happened, it was rumored that Asa could be heard singing through the forest. I've got Tiger's balls and I ate them. I've got Tiger's balls and I ate them. The end.
I've got Tiger's balls.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
It's going to be my head.
Gracious.
I'd apologize, but I wouldn't mean it.
Oh, that's like a catchy ditty that's just going to it's going to be like earworm or whatever. It's never coming out of there. So we're getting some chat from you folks on YouTube, and Bonnie Gardner said she had sausage, ironically, for dinner tonight. So
there you go.
That was good. And Joey said, Simon, you should have just worn a hat. I think that's the consensus of the YouTube crowd anyway.
Oh,
but,
okay. Thank you very much.
Everyone is loving the stories, everybody. And they seem like a bit of a raucous crowd. So that's what we were hoping for. Our next story. Oh, by the way, I don't think I can ever read or listen to Charlotte's Web again because now it's got like this distorted thing going with that. I don't know. Whew. All right. Our next storyteller lives in Chicago, and he's the co-curator of outspoken LGBTQ stories. And we're going to have a quick chat with Archy Jamjun and see what kind of robe he has put on this evening. We're so glad that he's joined us from Central Standard Time. Yay, Archie.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm wearing a
How
beautiful
are
white
you?
robe.
I know you
I'm
look very,
good.
very spa,
Very spa, yeah. That's
very Fairmont Hotel.
I did a face mask before this and everything. You gotta,
Yeah, really.
I look good for the YouTube.
I had to have a little work done on my pores. Sorry, I'm running a little late. Okay, so Archie, you have admitted that you have a storytelling crush on Calvin Cato. Is that true?
I mean, it's very true. I mean, from that story.
Right. I mean, who wouldn't, right?
I just want him to know that I have nice apples. That's all.
Fruit and sausage, everybody. Fruit and sausage. That's what we're selling tonight.
My legs spread wide, you know.
Well, let me just ask. So you have a crush on him, and I'm just wondering if any of your, crush fantasies involve a botanical garden or an alley.
Chicago has a beautiful botanical garden, and my mother has volunteered there, so clearly it would be the perfect place.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, because that's sexy. Botanical garden and your mother. What? Okay.
It won't be a homeless person, but it might be my mom. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man. So, and apparently you've played a slightly different version of the Clue game. I found this out when we had our tech rehearsal. And so what would it be? It would be who, where.
Okay, so when we were playing this on Tuesday, I didn't realize it's a person I wanted to have sex with, so I said Blanche, which is not true. So I would have to go with Mario Lopez, who does make a guest star in an episode. Mario Lopez with a rolling pin on the lanai, for sure.
All right. And if you didn't figure it out from the clues, Archie has been playing the Golden Girls version of Clue, which does exist and is going to be a Christmas gift for many people on my list. Well, Archie, you're always told to keep it PG-13, and you're very excited to be on the show because we're not telling you to keep it PG-13. And so now that the shackles of censorship are removed, I can't wait to hear what it is you're going to tell us tonight and what kind of ribald tale. So let's get right to it and find out what you're up to, Archy Jamjun, from the bottom up. Okay, I can see, I think, where this is going to be going.
Hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil, rainbow unicorn. Those are the emojis that comprise my Grindr name. I never wanted to find myself on a hookup app or a dating app again. I was engaged for 3 years and I was so thankful I'd found love. It would never have to go through the constant rejection, addiction to approval, ghosting, and just flat out weirdness that the world of digital dating is. There were also moments, however, as any gay man or straight woman in a long-term monogamous relationship knows, that I mournfully wondered, is that the last penis I am ever going to see in my entire life? So when my last relationship ended, one of the first things I did was get on Grindr and go dick hunting. Grindr profiles usually include your height and weight stats plus a few pics. It also asks you to fill in your race, which is kind of racist. I mean, if you can't tell I'm Asian from my pics, you must not be looking at the ones of my face. It also asks you your position. You can be a top, a verse top, a true verse, a verse bottom, or a bottom. I categorize myself as a verse bottom. That means I'm a catcher who once in a blue moon throws the ball. And that has been the story of my sex life so far. And while I love and need to be a catcher, being submissive is just so on the nose when it comes to gay Asian stereotypes. I might as well only wear kimonos. I want to be able to be a dominant masculine top too. Most of my life I felt extremely femme, and I love that about myself, and I'm not quitting that. I rock a pair of pink alligator Crocs, and my sheets are pink. But I also want to explore my more masculine side. Gender fluidity not only implies that we lie on a spectrum, It also means our gender is fluid. We are never completely stuck as who we are. We can reinvent, reimagine, redefine. Maybe I'm just channeling Madonna, but she has like $1 billion, looks fabulous, and have you seen her boyfriend? I mean, I see nothing wrong with channeling Madonna. When we first met, my ex would let me bat about once a month, and that feeling of versatility excited me. But by the time we broke up 8 years later, I was lucky if I got it for my birthday. So when I became single again, I decided to rediscover and develop the top in me. The thing is, I've so rarely done it that the thought gets me nervous and scared. All my exes have been tops, and topping a top on Christmas, I'm a Buddhist, but I love traditions, is different from trying to satisfy a well-versed bottom. I am a people pleaser who chews Xanax at the thought of failure. I feel safe saying I am a versed bottom. In the gay world, it implies, I'll try, but we might be better off watching Drag Race. His grinder name is Sup. He lives 1,300 feet away from me. He's Latin, a weakness, has curly hair, another weakness, and looks pretty in photos. I poked him and he enthusiastically responded. Now, at some point in every grinder conversation, somebody asks, so what are you into? So what are you into, he asked. I'm a bottom, I replied. My verse is so rare, I don't bother. Oh, nice, I could definitely pound your cute ass, he said. Who says romance is dead? I had him over at 5 o'clock that evening. He didn't look pretty. He looked kind of straight. The beautiful locks I saw on Grindr were sweaty and frizzy. He had on khaki cargo shorts. He was maybe 10 pounds heavier than his pics, but honestly, I liked thick and he was cute. Also, I am very easy. Or, as I like to think, I appreciate many forms of beauty. I took him up to my room and started to kiss him. I don't really like to be kissed. Oh, I didn't know what to do. Unless I'm at LA Fitness, I'm not the kind of lover who immediately goes down. I need a warm-up. I pulled back for a second. I mean, you can kiss my neck and body, he grinned. We proceeded, and then I saw it. Now, I don't want to gross you out with the details of what I consider a perfect bum. I'm sure you have your own ideas about what a perfect bum is. But for me, seeing such fuzzy, plump, peach perfection was transformative. Ponce de Leon searched for that fountain of youth. Dumbo had his feather. I have that ass. And for 23 minutes, I gave a surprising and apparently stunning performance. Topping is an art that requires rhythm. And honestly, there were moments that reminded me of the time I was drunk at a Shaka Khan concert and thought I knew the electric slide. Afterwards, though, Sup said it was some of the best he'd had in a while. It's the first time I've done that in years, I replied in humble afterglow. In the song, Like the Way I Do, Melissa Etheridge asks her ex-lover, does she know how to shock you, electrify and rock you? Does she inject you, seduce you and affect you? I miss my ex. It's been about a year since he moved out, and I still feel as if I've thrown my heart into a box I don't want to open. But if my ex were to ask me those questions, I'd have to say, well, yeah, Sup does all those things. Sup has come back over since. He's not straight, but he's mostly straight. He's a mostly straight bisexual. I've decided that for now, I'm polyamorous. I think that has a lot to do with the lock on my heart, but I also wonder what that lifestyle is like. What is it like to seek companions instead of a companion? A year ago, I was sure I'd love my ex forever and we'd retire in Thailand. Now I have no idea what my romantic future is, not even the form it will take. But I do know this. I'm not the verse bottom I was before. I have a core base of who I am, but there are parts of me that I can push to overcome fears and assumption I have about myself. I don't need to change to move on, but I do need to evolve. I might be a true verse. I might be a verse top. Whatever the case, I am definitely a thought. Because After 8 years of monogamy, I am going to have a lot of fun figuring it out. Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, well done.
Very well done.
Oh, Archie, that, it's food, it's education, it's laughter. We're just packaging it all into this show. Archie, thank you for that. Thank you. And good luck in your hunting or experimenting or whatever that is to find your true self. I applaud you in that. Okay, we are going to bring up our last and final storyteller, and she is none other than my co-producer at 6 Feet Apart Productions. And, she's a Brit who surprisingly is not all that reticent about talking about herself and naughty things. So we're going to have a little chat with Miss Claire Hennessy about that. Let's bring her up. Yay. Hello, Claire.
Hi, Regina.
How are ya?
I'm fine. Love your arms tonight, darling.
I know. I'm just like waving them around in the air like I just don't care. So listen, so Claire, you have been wanting to have this particular show for like ever. I mean, you've been hounding me to have this kind of a show. So wouldn't you say you're just a bit obsessed with this whole Ribald kind of topic?
Well, it's Simon's fault, really, because I wanted to tell a story on his Friday with Friends, and he wouldn't let me tell a rude story. So I had to come up with some clean story. And then then we said, okay, because I'm not letting you do a rude story in my show, we'll come up and we'll have an adult only show. So, and then Jessica muscled her way in like she does. God. And then, of course, we had to have Calvin and Archie because they're fabulous.
Well, of course. Who else would you invite? Who else would you invite for that? All right. Well, I'm going to ask you that clue board question as well. So with
I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
You're ready? Okay. Where, who, where, and what? Claire Hennessy.
Okay. Well, I only did the traditional clue, and we call it Cluedo, by the way. And so I wanted Professor Plum, because who doesn't like some plums, with the handcuffs hanging from the chandelier, darling, because I'm a countess.
Oh, all right. Very nice. You want to use those plums. Okay. Like melons. You have kind of a thing for fruit as it relates to ribaldry, rabelaisian.
Well, Jessica has the melons, unfortunately.
Well,
squeeze those melons.
Don't squeeze those melons. Well, Claire, this is the moment that you have been waiting for so very long. We haven't been waiting quite as long, but you've been waiting for a long time for this. And that is to just let it all go, Claire. Let it rip. Talk dirty to me, apparently. Let's hear it for Claire Hennessy. Yay.
Right. Well, I was 13 when I first met Bug. We met at boarding school in high school. He was 15 and I was 13. He was my first boyfriend and my first kiss and my first love. And then I dumped him. I found him again about 30 years later and discovered he moved to live in California. How dare he? So one Friday night, came back from the pub a little bit worse from where, and thought it was a very good idea to send him an email. Like you do. Thank God he remembered me. And then we began emailing back and forth. And then one day, Bug admitted he'd never forgotten me. He'd always thought about me and was, in fact, still in love with me. Of course, I was shocked and amazed. And then I realized maybe I was falling back in love with him. So we had a few more months of intensely romantic transatlantic courtship. And then Bug decided to fly over to England so we could meet in person. Now, I was a bit worried that we might not have the same chemistry as we did as teenagers. And Bug must have also been thinking along similar lines, because he started talking about sex rather more than I was used to or was comfortable with. I mean, to be completely honest, I hardly ever talked about sex with a man. The only time I talked about sex was with my girlfriends, large bottle of wine, way too much laughing. If my ex-husband had ever wanted to start a conversation on lovemaking, I would immediately busy myself with some mundane chore, like cleaning the loo, just stopping myself in time, putting my hands in my ears and going, not listening, not listening. So it was hardly surprising, therefore, that I had not had a supremely rewarding sex life. I just expected men to be mind readers. The only clues I gave them were moaning a bit more there or wriggling a bit to the left there. It had literally been hit or miss. But Bug was not one to be easily put off. He'd waited 30 years for me and could not understand why I was embarrassed and self-conscious about something as natural and beautiful as making love. And he was completely uninhibited himself. So during our nightly Skype phone conversations, the subject of sex kept rearing its bulbous purple head. Bug would tell me how much he wanted to see me naked, that, precisely what he wanted to do, and that he thought about having sex with me on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. I would laugh awkwardly and try and change the subject. But Claire, he would say, do you not realize how beautiful you are and that I just want you so much? So having somebody be so open about how much they loved and desired me did help to unlock some of my inhibitions. Now, Bug talked about his cock like it was his best friend. I, on the other hand, was barely on speaking terms with my private parts and didn't really even know what to call them. The official anatomical names for female genitalia were so cold and clinical, so unsexy. So, vagina, vulva, clitoris. I tried some other words and fell a long way short of erotic. Front bottom. Ooh, no, it's a little bit childlike. Don't think how that's going to do. Minge. That's not very enticing, is it? Sounds a bit dirty and unclean, like an unkept stray cat. Beaver. Oh, no, that just made me laugh. Another one I tried was lady garden. Now, although that's rather lovely, I didn't want Bug to think that my nether regions were somewhere in need of weeding. Now, the word that Bug used most of the time was pussy, but that just made me feel a bit like, a porn star. And now, of course, that word will be forever associated with bloody Trump. And of course, there was always the forbidden C word lurking behind the beef curtains, ready to pounce at any moment. Ironically, the word that I felt most comfortable using was funny. Now that led to some jolly strange misunderstandings, because now that Bug had lived in America for so long, he was referring to my bottom, but I was talking about my lady garden. I would shyly suggest to him, I can't wait for you to gently stroke my fanny. And he would respond with, I don't want to stroke it. I want to grab it with both hands and squeeze. Which made me think, just how large did he think my undercarriage was after giving birth? And if that wasn't bad enough, Bug became obsessed with the female G-spot, having read about it extensively. He was aroused at the prospect of foraging for it, he told me. I didn't know whether to be excited or terrified. A few weeks later, I was wearing sexy new lingerie and I picked him up from the airport and took him home. We sat together on my sofa and snuggled and were kissing politely and gently. And then he suddenly stopped abruptly and sat up. He looked deep into my eyes and then ripped open his shirt like he was Superman. Out of the corner of my eye, I think I saw a shiny button spin off into the room. Thinking I might see a giant red S, I was relieved just to see his pale chest with a few hairs dotted between his nipples. He looked inordinately pleased with himself. I thought he might beat his chest like Tarzan. Speechless, I just looked at him, desperately trying not to laugh. He looked at me, eyes twinkling, grinning slightly, and then launched himself at me with all the finesse of a young Labrador puppy. And then we were kissing passionately like we had as teenagers. After a few minutes, he stopped, stood up, held out his hand, pulled me up to him, kissed me lingeringly, and then he led me upstairs. When we got to my bedroom, I nervously turned around and lit some candles that I'd strategically placed around the room earlier in the day. Turning a minute later, I was stunned. There was Bug standing before me, already naked. In the snap of elastic, he'd ripped off all his clothes, and now here he was, stiff and proud. I didn't know what to do or where to look. He made no move to come towards me, so I had to undress myself. So, with much sucking in of stomach muscles, I slowly took off my top, then bent down to take off my jeans, revealing, shyly but somewhat proudly, my saggy menopausal body and my fabulous new underwear. Ta-da! Instead of saying, "My God, Claire, you're so beautiful, and by the way, what gorgeous lingerie," no, Bug said nothing. He turned around, lifted up the duvet and got into bed. On my side. As the dead weight of disappointment thudded in my gut, I quickly walked round to the other side of the bed and hid myself under the covers. Now, after the initial rush to get naked, Bug now took his time. He was passionate, tender, skillful, and experienced. Blushing bright red and stumbling as if I'm speaking a foreign language, I was actually able to tell him what felt good for me, rather than just moving around like I had ants in my pants. Now, in the years since, I have become much more uninhibited, as you might imagine, as my American friends know. And I now am able to talk about anything. Bug likens me to a beautiful blossoming flower with the petals peeling back one by one and revealing more of me. I think it would be rather more accurate to say I'm like a rather sturdy onion, with each layer being wrenched away, leaving a nasty, sticky mess in their wake. However, the result of all this peeling back has been this amazing level of deep intimacy that we now share. Now that this taboo subject has been, completely smashed, we can now talk about anything. Nothing is off limits. We can just share anything. And just in case you're wondering, I did marry him. Thanks.
Excellent. Excellent.
Woo! Undercarriage.
Lady guarded.
Oh, hey. Oh, sorry about that. Woo! All right, Claire, that was it's quite the story. Let me just get myself put back together here. All right. Claire, oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Knowing you and knowing Bug, I can just visualize that a little too clearly, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'm glad it has worked out for you. I really, really, really am. Okay, thank you to all of our storytellers, by the way. We're going to bring each one of them back one at a time so you can show them some love, and also so we can find out what they're up to next in the world. And first up, let's bring back the sausage lady herself, Jessica Robinson. Hey.
Hello.
Hello. What's happening in your future?
Well, our next Better Said Than Done show, I am emceeing. It's on September 9th. It's virtual, so I hope you'll join us. We have amazing storytellers from the East Coast and the West. And then at the end of September, I am heading to South Carolina for the Stone Soup Storytelling Festival. I am a new voice storyteller.
Yay. So good for you. Good for you. That's great. All right. And Calvin, what's happening for you, Robe Man?
Hello. So I'm doing several live shows, but I just contributed to a book called Queendom, spelled Kweendom, and it's a book that's it's filled with like stories and essays from queer storytellers and queer comedians. So please check it out, and all the proceeds go to immigration equality.
All right.
Nice.
Wonderful, Calvin. That's wonderful. All right. And next up, of course, Mr. Wearing a little more than a hat, Simon Brooks.
Yes, wearing a lot more than a hat.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm involved with the Hans Christian Andersen Storytelling Center online virtual summer concert series, which is on every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. And I've got some local gigs, which you're probably not interested in, but I was hoping to be heading down to the National Storytelling Festival to do some ghost stories and some emceeing, but that's going to go virtual as well. But I'm going to be heading down to Athens Storytelling Festival, I think, hopefully. And also I might even be seeing Miss Jessica at Stone Soup, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Ooh, wonderful. All right. That's great.
And also the TBD storytelling at the end of the month. Last Tuesday of the month, TBD storytelling. Can't forget that.
All right. Excellent. All right. And Archie, what's happening with you in Chicago?
We have Outspoken on Tuesday, September 7th at Sidetrack, which I curate. I'm also doing fundraiser with Brown, which is a queer health center here in Chicago, and Gerber Hart Library on September 18th. If you don't live in Chicago, just put my name in YouTube and you can watch some stories that I have on there. So that's what I got.
Great. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you to all. And finally, Claire, as if I don't know, what's happening in your world, girl?
Well, we've got some really exciting things coming up. On the 1st of September, we've got another open mic. This is for anybody who want to tell a story, just a bit like the moth, 5 minutes with a 1 minute roundup. And this theme is working it. So anything to do with work. So all the details are on our website. Go and have a look there. And then we're doing a production in association with the Storytelling Association of California called The Meaning of Life Without Parole. And it's all to do with previously incarcerated people. So there's 2 previously incarcerated women who are going to tell stories, and then 2 storytellers, professional storytellers, who are going to talk about their experience of working with the men's prisons. And then the 2 MCs work for organizations, and they're going to do Q&A and talk to them. So it's completely free. So they just want to get the message out. So go to our website, go to Storytelling Association of California website, and you'll see the details, but that's completely free. So hopefully you'll come along and spread the word. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you once again to our backstage audience. Yay.
Woo!
It's so great to have our backstage audience. We love it. Thank you for the love and support. Great comments, by the way, great comments. And also YouTube. YouTube, you really came through. You really did. There was a lot of great comments in the YouTube chat. So Storytellers, you got to go back and watch that. And thank you so much for coming. If you know anybody who missed the show, they can still buy a ticket to watch the replay, the now streaming. Go to Better Said Than Done, because this was a great show. You're going to want to talk about this one at the water cooler or whatever watering hole, wherever you hang out. All right. So thank you very much, Jessica Robinson, Claire Hennessy, and of course, Bug, our tech guru. Love to you all. Thank you for coming. Drive
Thank you,
safe.
Regina.
Yeah.
Thank all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon.
Woo!
Now piss off. Oh.
Take your gloves off first.